storytelling started when I was under 5 years old by my dad. In our house, I had an older sister, Doreen, 4 years older, and a younger brother, Bud, 2 years younger. And because my sister was 4 years older, she felt that she could stay up much later than we did. So my poor brother and I, we didn't want to go upstairs. So my dad was very understanding of feelings of children. So he made it fun for us. And he came upstairs with us. And we all, the three of us, were in my brother's bed. And my father would start every night the same way, telling us about Lenny Squirrel. Lenny Squirrel always took the same route. He went into the woods, but he had to go over the big rock, and then the little rock, and the big brook, and the little brook. And then he'd meet all his animal friends. And they usually have a problem, not a big one, because they didn't want to scare us, but a problem. And only Lenny Squirrel could figure out how to solve that problem. So we'd listen and tell us adventure, and when it was all done, then he would head home, and he would barely make it to his house. He was so tired. All he could think of was his nice little bed. And then he'd climb in his bed, and it was so warm and cozy, and he'd fall right to sleep. Well, my brother and I were trying to keep our eyelids up. And so I barely made it down the hall to the bedroom I shared with my sister. And that's what Dad would do every single night. And it was always a different adventure. And that was my introduction to storytelling. And then when I was a little older, when I could read, I was all excited because I went to the library and I got my first library card. And they had this summer reading club, and I joined that. I took my 2 books home, read my books, came back, and the librarian would sit down with me, and she would ask me all these questions. Now, if I answered them all right, I got a star next to my name. So that was the next thing for storytelling, by reading the books. And then, when I got to 6th grade, we had a brand new teacher. She was so wonderful. She was young, she was enthusiastic. And what she did is she would cut these pictures out of magazines. She would bring them to the class, hold them up, and say, write a story. Oh, I was in heaven. I didn't even know I loved to do it. And I had such an imagination. Boy, I went on and on and on about the story, and she just loved what I wrote. So that was another time that I realized that I could write. And then when I got to college and I had Dr. Sims from Springfield College, he always gave me excellent and A on my papers, and he said, I think you should look for a club that has writing. And I didn't, but I was thrilled and complimented by him. When I had my own children, I would read to them and let them use their imaginations. They particularly liked the nursery rhymes, and my daughter, Kathy, who was here, she was 3 years old when she could do the whole Owl and the Pussycat because she heard it so many times. So they had a love hearing stories and using their imagination. And then when I had the grandkids, I made up the whole story, and they would be the leading characters, and they would do all the things that I thought they'd enjoy doing. So it wasn't until I started with emails that I began to realize that my oldest grandson really was a smart young man, and he was accepted in McGill University in Montreal, and we still kept going back and forth every single week with our emails, and I could see his love of the English language and the detail that he would write about to me, things that happened in his life. So I kept suggesting to him, why don't you try? Why don't you just try to write a story? Yeah, well, maybe, but he didn't. Then he moved to Amsterdam, and this went on again, and I got nowhere. So I said, well, why don't we do this? I'll write a story, you write a story. We'll write a little bit at a time, and we'll just exchange them and see where it goes and what happens. Okay, he said he would do this. So we did it for a while, and then all of a sudden he stopped. I was really annoyed. I said, geez, why did he do that? So then I said, I know, I'm not going to write mine, so I stopped mine too. So then I got an email right away. Well, that was different when I stopped it. He didn't like that. He said, what happened to Elaine? I mean, what happened to Eileen? What happened to Eric? He's naming all these people that I had made up. And I said, I don't know what happened to them. So I would lie in bed in the morning early and I'd think, what did happen to them? I didn't know. It's not the way you write a story. You don't do it that way. But I did it that way, and by going a little bit at a time, and then I would send it to him, and he liked what was happening, and we'd go a little more and a little more. Well, that's how the draft of the story started. It wasn't a finished story, but it was a draft. He enjoyed it, and the grandkids that I sent it to all enjoyed it. So, anyway, where are we? I got a call from Betty McCann, who is sitting right here, and she said that there was this writing group that she was joining. Would I like to join? And so I did join it, and I enjoyed it very much. It was with Elaine Franconis, who's sitting right here, and what she did is she would give us a prompt, and then we would take it home and write the way I like to write, in a comfortable chair, leisurely, with a pencil and a pad, just scribble away. And then we would bring them in, and I was amazed. We all had different stories. We were given the same prompt, but we all had different stories. And then when the class ended, as I was putting away my stories that I had written for Elaine, I came across pink sneakers. And I said, well, that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on that. So I took that out, and I didn't like this, added here, and I kept doing that, revising it, till I got it to where I thought it was a much better story. Well, by then, there was another class opening up, and that's when Linda's class started here, right here at the library. And Betty told me about it. So I came, and Linda really, really pushed us. She would give us the prompt in the class, and she said, now I have a timer here. You've got 20 minutes to write your story. Oh, 20 minutes, right? And here I'm so used to just going at home. Well, I looked around. She says, ready, set, go. And the whole class, and this is a big class, whole class, oh, they're going up. And I'm looking up. I haven't even thought of what I'm going to say about that. But it did come, and the more I did it, the easier it got. And that's what she was trying to do, was stimulate us. Never mind about punctuation if you don't want to, or spelling, just get through it. You can fix it later on. And I got a lot out of that, and I enjoyed doing that. But the story I really wanted to write, I wanted to write something pleasant. I listen to the news. I shouldn't listen to the news, but I do. And it's very depressing. And I thought, I'd like to write something where you just sit down and you read it and you feel good. I enjoy this. So I said, that's what I'm going to write about. Then I said, everybody writes about these young, beautiful women. I wanted to write about an older woman and her second chance in life. So that's how I started the story. As to where it was, well, one of my favorite things to do is to walk the beach. I absolutely love to walk the beach. If you have troubles, they just seem to go away, including your bills, everything. You just forget it because you're so engrossed in where you are, just the sounds, the waves breaking on the shore. and the birds above flocking away, and the air so fresh and salty, and I just love it. So I said, my story's going to start at the beach. That's what I want her to be. I want her to be an artist. If I'm an artist, I can talk about it. So I had her be an artist, and what she did is take her camera, and she used her camera. And the reason she did that is she took her easel and set it up there. The lighting keeps changing, and the lighting is so important to what you're doing. And if you take it to the beach and you're starting, and this is all fine, the shadows are perfect, everything, then you get over here, oh, it's all different. So I find if you take your pictures, you get home and you look at them and say, oh, this one shows it the best, and then use that as your guide. So that's what I had. I had this woman who was a widow, and she's trying to forget the death of her husband, which was 2 years before that. But she's coming to the beach in the morning when nobody's there, and that's what she wants. And she's using her camera to get the angle and so forth. And that's when she met the professor. Now the professor was here during the summer, and he writes too. He was writing on his pad on the bench. She had left her pink sneakers underneath that bench. So when she was done her walk, and she was coming back to get her sneakers, she thought, oh Lord, who's that sitting there? And he's sitting there, and underneath is his little dog, and the little dog thinks it's a new toy. He's got her sneakers. So this is how they met. And then also to set it up for the reading I'm going to do, you have to know about Roxy. Roxy was a pupil in the professor's class. Roxy did not want to be in the class. She didn't want to be in college. She didn't want to study. Roxy wanted to party. She's a party girl. She's an only child, but she knew she needed that degree, so that's why she's there. So she sat down and she figured out if she gets maybe 3 more credits from this professor, she could just about squeak by. She could get her degree. So she called her daddy, and he never says no to squeak by. So she said, will you please call the professor and ask him to tutor me during the summer? Father did that, and the professor said, no way, no, I'm not going to do that. So the father accepted it, told Roxy, and Roxy said, well, I'll handle this myself. She never took no for an answer. So she found a motel, really an inn, very close to where the professor was staying, and she was going to take care of it all herself. So that's more or less the setting for what I'm going to read for you. So the professor did ask if she would do a painting for him. And she said, I'll get some photos of the scene that you want, and I'll give them to you, and you can pick out the one you want. So that's the way it was left. Eileen phoned Eric and asked if she could drop by to go over the photos. He quickly agreed. She let him know that there were a few choices she had to tend to first, but he could expect sometime in the afternoon she'd arrive. Eric couldn't be more delighted. He glanced around the place as if he were looking at it for the first time. Tearing off a few paper towels and dampening them, he proceeded to do a passable dusting, which, for him, involved going around each object instead of lifting each one for a complete job. He placed fresh towels in the bathroom. He straightened pillows in the living room, and he removed magazines from coffee tables. And then the doorbell rang. How could she be here this early, he wondered. He ran his fingers through his curly hair and what would have to do as a quick combing. And taking a deep breath, he opened the door. Oh, God, no. He couldn't believe his eyes. There stood Roxy at her tawdry best. She wore a short, fire engine red t-shirt. That along with a low-cut jean shorts showing off her flat stomach with a diamond stud in her navel and a smiley purple tattoo just below her navel. She wore her hair pulled up with dyed streaks in it of different colors, held up with a jeweled clip. Her pretty face was clowned up with the brightest of red lipstick and heavy black liner around her eyes. Her highest stiletto heels completed the Roxy look. After Eric recovered his voice, he angrily asked, "What the devil are you doing here?" Roxy threw back her head, raised her eyebrows, and strutted past Eric while chewing on her gum. "Hey, Professor." Feeling his blood pressure rising, Eric replied, "I made it very clear to your father that I have summers off, period." Ignoring his remarks, Roxy checked out his kitchen. "Nice place you got here. Bet it gets kind of lonely at night, right?" Eric pulled out a kitchen chair and told her to sit down. He sat and calmly explained that he had no intention of tutoring her, but if she was serious about doing makeup work, he would give her an assignment. And what would that be? "I have a poetry book that you could borrow. I'll expect you to do a self-study. You are to write 10 one-page essays on 10 poems in my book. Once you hand it in, I'll tell you if you made the grade. You do your part, I'll do mine. Agreed?" "Yeah, sure." Eric swirled around, headed towards his bedroom. "I have a bookcase in my bedroom. Now you wait right here and I'll get the poetry book for you." Just then the doorbell rang and Roxy opened the door. There stood a perplexed Eileen. "If you're looking for Eric, he's in the bedroom," said Roxy with a smirk. Eileen took one look at Roxy, threw the photos on the table, saying, "Just give these photos to him, please." Then she turned and left. Eric heard the door shut, and he rushed in to see Roxy holding the photos with a Cheshire cat smile on her face. The implication couldn't be stronger. Eileen quickly drove away, realizing that she was not a good judge of character and certainly not ready to enter the crazy dating world. Eric was left standing in the doorway, wondering what had just happened. He glared at Roxy, handed her the book, and she left quickly. He sat at the table, placed one hand on the envelope of photos Eileen had thrown on the table. The other hand supported his bowed head. He felt defeated. How could he possibly explain the situation to her? And you have to read to see. So I'm hoping that will inspire a few seniors to not feel they're over the hill and they'll start writing. I know some of you are really good writers, and just give it a try. You never know. I certainly didn't know. I wasn't intending to write a book. I was intending to give a nudge to my grandson who still hasn't written a book. So anyway, I think you might enjoy it. I do hope that it's a diversion from such bad news we hear on the news. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.